Here it is. World Championship qualifier semi-finalist. There we have it. We did it. We made it. A $60 deck did it. Which is 3 snow. That's the best like Dark World card in the deck. Obviously it searches you anything. So same with RB. Some people run less than 3, which is in my opinion stupid. You always want to see this card when you start the game. That basically does a lot for you. Later on we have the Genta, which is the other card you want to see in combination with the RB. That's like your main bread and butter from what you want to start. So if you are able to find these two in your opening hand, you're pretty Gucci from that point on. So people not wanting to run 3 of the RB is just strange for me. Then we have 2 Graphas, which is going second, it's an amazing card. Going first, it's not. And I had situations where I had to discard this with the field spell just to have something else to draw. And I mean, it's not nice, but it happens sometimes. I ran only 1 Ceruli and 1 Sylva in the main deck. And the reason for that is because I have another Sylva in the side deck, and the reason I have it in the side deck is because I want to be consistent in regards of opening hands, in regards of how I sequence and how I go about with my combos. Like usually people search Sylva straight up with the RB. I personally don't do that. I search the Grapha so I can bounce the same RB with the Grapha and then search the Sylva. This way I simply minimize the deck and I get everything I need. I get 2 rank 8 monsters for me to do stuff on the board, for me to make Akashic Magician and so on. So I personally run 1 Sylva in the main just for that reason. What's RB? It's Rainbix, this guy. Rainbix Overking. In short, it's RB. So some people run 2 of these, which is stupid, but I run 3 always. And same with the Dark Corridor. If you've seen my other videos, I will always say that running 3 Dark Corridors in a deck that wants to hand loop is just bad. So for the danger monsters, most of the time, like I said, people run like different ratios, and I can understand why. But if they would be playing this deck as much as I've been playing the deck, they would not do that. Simply because of that, we do not want to have more than 2 dangers of the same kind. And the reason I run Allure is just to get rid of the second one, just not to have doubles in hand. And some people run 3 Nessies, which is like bad. Nessie is a... Of course, Nessie searches is good, it's basically another Dark World, but on the board it's just a body for a Link Summon. It doesn't do Xyz, doesn't do any combo pieces like at all. So yeah, let's go with the dangers. 2 Chupacabras, it's a fiend, it can swarm the board, and like I said, I have 3 allures that I use mainly if I have 2 Chupacabras in hand, or if I already used one of the dangers effect, I just allure it away. And most of the time that's the reason for that. But 2 Chupacabras, 2 Mothman, it's a good card, but sometimes you don't really want to activate its effect. If you're going hard with the combo and they're not responding to you, giving them a card to draw can be very bad sometimes. You can let them draw a Droll and they will Droll you if you activate the Mothman second ability. And maybe they might get something else which will screw you over. So like I said, sometimes you don't really want to activate the effects. Choose more than enough. I've seen people run 3 of this because it's an amazing card. I know it's good. But like I said, sometimes you can shoot yourself in the foot by activating this effect. So choose more than enough. Same with Nessies. Like I said, no more than 2 dangers. Usually in a Dark World deck, you should be looking at ratios of 7 to 10 dangers. That's like the optimal way of going about it. And for that reason, I would rather prefer having 2 offs instead of having 3 Nessies, because if one of them resolves, you have 2 of these in hand. What are you gonna do? If you're gonna activate it, there's a high chance it will get hit again, and even if it comes to the field, it's basically sometimes good as a 2800 like defense. If you have a Bagushka on the side, if they draw you, maybe it's good, but most of the time it's a level 7, you're not really gonna do any Xyz or whatever with it. It's mostly just an extra body for Saryuja to make and stuff like that. So 2 is more than enough. I ran 2 Bigfoots, and the reason for that is because I have a trade-in. Initially, I thought I'm gonna use 2 trade-ins and less allures, but I switched up at the last minute. But for me, the reason I run 2 is because first of all, you can use trade-in on it. If they have something on the board and they have shifted you or whatever, you can still trade in and use this, pop a card, draw 2 cards, basically giving you a +1, just stabilizing at least a little bit, controlling the board if they like did a shifter or whatever on you. So it's a good card. It's a level 8. You can use with Coach King, you can use with Zombie Stein. It can at least do something on the board if you compare it to Nessie, and it has 3000 attack, so that's also very nice. And like I said, why 2 is good is because we have Jackalope in case like the Jack goes to the grave, it gets discarded, and you need an extra level 8 on the board, since we already established on RB Agrafa, because that's usually what we do at first, just for the sequencing purposes. With Genta, just to minimize the deck, not to draw the fields, not to draw the other cards that we don't want to draw. We would rather search them so that when we use dangers, we draw proper cards that we actually need to extend the combo. So the Jackalope, if it gets discarded, it's good to sometimes summon a second Bigfoot if you already have one in hand or whatever. You can summon the second one just to make a Coach King and so on. No, trade-in does not activate the Dark World's effects, but the dangers get activated from trade-in because they activate even if they're discarded by cost. And they don't need to go to the grave to activate their effects, so if they have something that blocks your grave, like Dimensional Fissure, like a guy played against me in round 1, he placed a Dimensional Fissure, and trade in with this would just pop it. I draw 2 cards and I can continue on without a Fissure on the field. Of course, he had like a quick spell that protects it, so I had to unicorn it and win. I did 2-0 against that, and he rolled me in the first game and I still won. So yeah, Danger Jackalope is very good. It's that one-off that we can play only one, and Sushinok is also one-off since it's limited. And like I said, the more different names you have, the better. You don't want to have multiple copies of the same one. If you would cut one of these, I would cut Chupacabra. It's good because it's a fiend. That's another upside. You can use it for the field spell. But if you want to cut something from here, I would go in a ratio of first the Chupacabra, then maybe the Bigfoot would be cut if you want to run less dangers in your build. But these are the dangers. For the fire monsters, I ran 1 catalyzer, simply because when you're hand looping, there's one rule that you should always follow in this deck, is that there are targeted discards, as in you can choose what you can discard, and there are non-targeted discards like the dangers, like the card destruction, and so on, where you do not make a decision on what particular card you want to discard. So this is a card that lets you do that. On top of that, if they draw you, shifter you, or whatever, you can use this card to special summon itself and have another level 4 body to go Bagushka and just stall out the lock. And hopefully they don't have a what's it called, imperm. And if they don't have an imperm, you have another turn to play and do stuff. You will get a fiend to the grave and you can start doing the stuff later on. So it's a very good card. It can also you can get it back from the like from the grave if it's in the grave and you fight with like any fiend. Even if he attacks your fiend monster, you can get it back. But mostly it's for the hand loop or to go about a draw or shifter if they have it. If they don't let you play, you can go about it with this by playing Bagushka on top and just passing and defending yourself. This is the thing I want to talk about the most. This is a card I really love. It's like my best card in the deck that I love. And the thing is, like, I tried running multiples, like 2, then 3s, and usually when I run 3, I draw like it too often. Like sometimes you go first and you draw 3 of this and it's like, it's really bad. If you have trade-ins, okay, you can do something, but if they have an Ash Blossom, it's not that good. At the same time, I don't want to be in a gamble position where I'm just rolling a dice and the dice decides if I win or not. Because if I don't have this and I go second, it's a lot harder to break a board. With this, it's way easier to break a board. Like against the Kashtira player, he won the dice roll. I had to go second in the first game, and I drew 2 of these, and I just wiped the whole board that he had with 2 lava golems, and I OTK'd him in the same turn. It's as simple as that. So this card is very good, but when you're going first, of course, it's not that good, but it's a fiend. You can discard it for the field spell, and I run 1 trade-in, so you can be able to unbrick yourself if you're going first. But the reason I love trade-in is because it's basically a pot of greed. If you didn't know why we do the RB to graph of first, is because later on we can always bounce the RB. Like the first search with this should be this. If you have like most of the time, this searches this the first time. And then once you discard this becomes a free resource in your hand. Like for a trade-in, for a Cerberus, like for Unicorn, you can always bounce it like that, one to the other. So this becomes basically a pot of greed for you, because if this is on the field and this is in the grave, you just bounce this, summon this, play this, discard this, and once again you have back in the grave. And you draw 2 new cards. It's basically a pot of greed for this. Worst case, you use it for a Lava Golem going first, just not to have it as a brick. And just an amazing card. I was running 2, but I just don't want to get Ash Blossomed. Because if they Ash Blossom this, it really hurts. So usually when you have it, you don't play it first, you bait them with Gentas and everything else to see if they have an Ash Blossom. And if you feel safe, then you go for the trade-in, and then you can do that. Next, after the trade-in, we have Card Destruction. Like, people say it's the best card in the deck. Sometimes I don't even want to activate it, to be honest. Like, if I'm going full-on combo and they're not stopping me, I will never use this card, unless I have to. Never. Because if you activate this, and they had a handful of bricks, and now they draw a handful of hand traps, and even if they, God forbid, draw Droll Lockbird, you're done. Like, you're done. So most of the time this card is like, I either use it as a first card to activate, just to, like, let's say they have 2 draws in hand, you just go straight up Card Destruction, they don't have any more draws after, like, in game 2 or 3, whatever. But yeah, it's a good card, it does a lot of pluses to you, but it can hurt you a lot. Like, your opponent can just get a bunch of new cards which will not let you play, and you will just pass your turn. So be always careful in regards of when you activate this card. Sometimes, like I said, I just set it, and in case I don't have any other plays, then I use it. But like I said, it's a double-edged sword with this card, even though it gives you a lot of pluses. I also run 1 triple Tactic Talents, and this card has multiple ways of being abused. Like, first of all, if you're doing a hand loop and they have no hand traps, usually from 5 cards only 1 is left, and this rips the last card. If they give you like a Droll Lockbird or like a Shifter, you can instantly activate this, look at their hand. Like, I had a situation in round 2, the Sprite player gave me a Droll in game 2, and I was like, okay, I use triple Tactic Talents, show me your hand. And I look at his hand, he has 1 Sprite, and the other 3 cards are hand traps. I just simply put the Sprite back into his deck and pass. He goes into his turn, he has no plays, he just sets an Imperm and passes back to me, and I can continue doing my stuff even after he drolled me. So this card can be good when they Shifter you, droll you. You just activate it, look at their hand. By doing that, you understand what they can do to you on the next turn, and based on that, you can make your decisions if you need to go into like Bagushka or if you don't need to go into Bagushka. It's just an amazing card. At the same time, my main deck called By the Grave, and it helps a lot. Sometimes if you draw this from Allure or Card Destruction on your first like play of Card Destruction at the opening hand, that's usually what you want to do. after game 1, because they will have Droll or Shifter or whatever. If they have Shifter, they'll just use it in the standby phase. But if they have Droll and you use Card Destruction and they get another Droll and you have this, it saves you. Even after 2 first draws you get this, it saves you. It saved me a lot, honestly. Even in game 1 it saved me a lot. If this card was a 2 or 3, this deck would be so broken. But unfortunately it's only at 1, and that's why we have 1 of this, and I run it in the main deck because like I want to play, I don't want them to stop me with a draw or whatever. So with the Dark World cards I have 1 archive. Sometimes in game 2 I side it out. It's one of those cards that you can side out, and it basically does the same thing as Catalyzer. It lets you choose what you want to discard, and when you do the loop, the hand loop, you want to have cards which give you a choice on what you want to discard. So in regards of that, like, it's a good card. And with RB, with this, since this card is not mandatory, you can make it Chain Link 2 after this, the second effect of Archives activates, making you search first and then discard and draw 2 cards. So if you know the sequencing with RB, it's good as well. We have only 1 Fusion of Accession. I've seen people run multiple ones, like 2 or whatever. I think that's too much. 1 is more than enough. You can search it, you can find it with snow. You can bring it back from the grave if you really need it. And it's also a targeted discard. One of those that you value and you keep until you get like Sylva, Ceruli, and at least 1 or 2 of these. But if you're doing the sequencing well, you will have both of these, and then you can start doing the hand loop. Basically you want to have these 2 set up in the grave, have Ceruli and Sylva, and you will have Sylva after this setup because you can find it anytime you want by bouncing this. And all you need to do is just find the Ceruli with the snow, with the danger, and then you can start hand looping. And then you just like maximize these cards. You try to keep them for as long as possible to have the choice to simply discard the Ceruli and not something else randomly. That's why we value every single card that has a targeted discard. I run 3 allures. I wanted to run less of this. Like sometimes I really don't like allure. Sometimes you activate allure or you have like 2 or 3 monsters in your hand and you have multiple allures. You kind of don't even want to get rid of those cards that you have in your hand, and you have these allures. So sometimes, like before the tournament, I want to play 1 of this and like use 3 lava golems and stuff. I had a different list, but in the end I put this in just for the consistency. But most of the time when I have it in hand, I usually set it. I don't even activate it. And I will activate it only then when I have like a danger that I don't want to have in my hand. Or if I used one of the dangerous effect, like if the Nessie was already hit and I don't want to keep the other Nessie in my hand, because if it gets hit I don't get any value. I'll just allure it away and get like 2 other cards which can give me a lot more. So that's the best way to use allure in this deck. Simply like put it aside until you have something in your hand that you don't want to have, and then allure it away. So that's how I would use the allure. I use only 2 Dark Corridors, and when I say only, I mean you should only play 2 and no more, maybe 1, maybe 2, but never 3 of this. And for those who don't agree with me, well, I don't want to be controversial, but have you ever played this deck? Like, most of the time you will draw your whole deck, and most of the time, once I use this, I will draw this, and once I draw this, it becomes just a dead card. And in this deck, sometimes you're in a position where 1 card does a lot for you. And if you want to run 3 of the Dark Corridors, well, be my guest, sure, but let's see how consistently you can pull off your combos when stuff doesn't go your way, when one of your dangers gets hit, and so on. So 1, 2, no more, that's it, don't argue. You will know if you've played this deck as long as I have. And the other thing that's controversial is the 3 Dark World gates of Dark World. Some people run only 2, which is, I mean, I'm not gonna boast on this as hard as I boast on the Dark Corridor, that's fine. You can play only 2, but For me, it's a card that lets you choose to discard, which means it's a card that lets you do the hand loop, which means you can discard a brick that's, let's say, even a lava golem and draw a new card, which means this is searchable with Genta. And usually when we have Genta, we will get at least 2 field spells with the same Genta by bouncing the same Genta into my hand. So usually, like, this is the full deck list, but just for you to understand what I'm saying, let's say we have this and we have the Genta. The usual thing you do, and it's like the basic starter, right? You use the Genta, find the field, then you use the field, banish this, discard this comes to the field. You search always this to have. This one is in the grave, this one is in the field. You bounce this to the hand, summon this. You use the same Genta again and you find the other field. Let's say you run only 2 field spells and you drew one of this. You're not gonna be able to do that. And at the same time, once you draw another one, you have the lure to get rid of it. I mean, you always want to use this as soon as possible. Once you sit this in your hand and you still have targets for this, you always activate it first. Simply not to draw these cards. These cards are not meant to be drawn from the deck. These cards are meant to be searched with this. And yes, sometimes you can open a hand with 2 field spells and so on. But the upside is still better. Because at this point, with these 2 cards, just the Genta and the RB, you start the whole combo of this getting you this getting you this, then you bounce this card, get another field, and then you bounce, it was like this, and then you bounce this to summon this. After the second field, discards this. So at this point you're all set up. This will be your field, your hand. You already drew 2 cards, and this is the grave that you have. So at this point you can search the Silva, and after you search with this for the Silva, all you need to do is like get a Dark Corridor to find the Ceruli. The Ceruli will discard itself and you hand loop, or just use a Snow as a searcher to find the basically at this point all you need is like your deck was, you drew 2 cards, you searched 2 cards, and you searched 2 more with the Genta. So 6 cards are gone from your deck. So let's say 35 cards were in your deck. There's only 29 cards left in your deck. The chances of you finding a card like this, a card like Ceruli, a Snow, or a Danger, which will continue because that's all we want to do. We want to find the whole combo piece and just do the combo. It just saves you a lot of cards that you would have drawn, which you will not, just by starting like this. This is like the main thing you need to do when you start any game, any combo, once you have these 2 in hand. So yeah, basically learning sequencing helps you a lot, not to draw like bricks and stuff. For the extra deck, we have the rank 4s. My sleeves were bigger than these, or I had them double sleeved. The judge told me not to have them double sleeved, so I just use them like this. So basically we have the Bagushka, the card that saves you when they draw you, when they shifter you, and so on. Not much to explain, just play it like that and chill for a turn. Dugares, one of the targeted discards that we can have. Basically it lets you choose what you want to discard, and once it's done, like, you also get to draw 2 cards. Amazing card. Afterwards, for the other XCs, I have 2 more rank 8s. I have Zombiestein. First of all, it's a beat stick of 45k, like, it's a lot. But most of the time, like, this is a card you want to end your board on, because it can target any face-up card they activate it and just make it not work. So basically it stops any card that they have. Once you've finished with the hand loop, if they still have that 1 card and they draw a second one, they have 2 cards. You want to have this, a Palooza and a Fusion at the end, and you're just Gucci. There's no way they can outplay these 3 with those 2 cards. We have the Coach King, basically lets you draw 3 cards, lets you win in the time. Like, if you go into time, this is a good card to have. For the Link summons, we have the Link to Muckraker. Also a card that lets you target it, like do a targeted discard, but it locks you into Fiends. And once you're locked into Fiends, of course, making end board is hard, and after that it's kind of hard to even bounce the Ceruli. But you have this card, even if you have to go into this line to do the hand loop, don't forget that you have the triple tactics, and you can take their Ceruli that you gave them and bounce it with like Graph or RB, and bounce it like that. If you're forced to go into this, if you have no other ways to do that, you can still do like the Ceruli combo 2 times with these two. It's possible to do that, but once you're locked into Fiends, you kind of want to have an end board as well, which will be the Graph of Fusion. And in regards of links, you will go into Fiends such as this and this and this. That's why I ran the Nightmare package, but also what I do with the Cerberus is once I'm done with the hand loop, I always do the same thing, as in I play the Cerberus underneath like an Akashic Magician or whatever I used previously, right here. Usually it's like the Akashic Magician. Where is it? There. Usually it's the Akashic Magician that you're gonna use to bounce the Ceruli, right? And just not to let them have a monster on the board, because if you're finishing on a Palooza, they might do that, what's it called? All of the Snake Eyes are running right now. The Link 1, the 1000 eyes that used to be like a ritual monster. What's it called? The Relinquished Anima. So you don't want to leave the Ceruli for them to do a Relinquished Anima. So I do a Cerberus, which lets me draw a card at the same time. So not only I get rid of the problem, but I also get to draw a new card with Cerberus, and then I can use the second effect of Akashic Magician to search a top card, like try to predict what the top card will be and get like a new card. But and then use these two into Apollousa, simply like that. This is the whole sequence you do with these. That's why you run these. But like I said, if you're locked into Fiends, you can go the Nightmare package and go finish on a Griffin. That's also a possibility. For the other link too, I use Security Dragon. It's another way to bounce stuff. And like, if you don't go into Cerberus, if you like pop the Ceruli with Grapha, let's say, and if you need to bounce the... Like, if you went not the Akashic route, if you don't have two Fiends, or two of the same type, and you had something else on the board prior to that, like a Muckraker, and you didn't use its effect yet, this is another option you can have to bounce stuff. If they are co-linked, you can bounce. Basically another option to bounce stuff, because sometimes you kind of need it. It can even bounce a problem that they have on the board if you're going second, just as a board breaker. It can do that as well. So it's just another option to have, and from this point on, like, I'm gonna be showing you another card that I use just for an option. I know that there's other cards that I could have used in the extra deck, but I want to be flexible. I want to be able to also play going second, not just rely on my like whole hand loop combo, because sometimes you lose the dice roll and you have to go second, and if you go second with this deck, you just break the whole board and you win. It's as simple as that. So for that simple reason, I also have Underworld Goddess, because they might have like a Psychic and Punisher or whatever that doesn't let them get targeted, removed, or whatever. And if you don't have a Lava Golem, this is another way to clear it, because you might not have drawn the Lava Golem in the opening hand or after drawing a lot of other cards. So that's the reason I run the Goddess. Also, it has a second effect when people special summon from grave. But like most of the time, I didn't even play it. It was just there for safekeepings. Another high rank link monster is Saryuja. Of course, we run the Saryuja. That's why different danger names are good, because after we have 4 of something, we can make this and be able to draw new cards, then Swarm with its effect. Also, like if you have a skill drain that you will set afterwards and you want a big bit stick, you play the big bodies behind it. They get the boost of the attack, and that boost of the attack becomes lingering effect. So basically, even if the Saryuji is gone or if the skill drain is up, the attack boost stays with them, so they become even bigger towers than that. And the last two are, of course, the Fusion Graphas, the best card in the deck. I mean, I had a situation in round 1 against Pearly. He had a Zeus on the board. He had the Pearly, the blue one that negates the effect. And I had only like the Fusion spell in the grave, a Graph in my hand, and the Sylva in my hand, something like that, I think. So basically how it worked, that I was able not to only summon this, but also like outplay the whole board that he had, and once it get popped, I get to like get a card from his hand and summon another Graph from that was removed, and there was a Fissure before, so my whole grave was removed, and it's just a very good card. It's just very, very good in this deck. Going to the side deck. First of all, we have 3 skill drain, of course. I sometimes think about running only 2, because usually if you go throughout the whole hand loop, you will draw these 2, and 3 will be more than enough, sometimes even a brick. But in the meta that we have right now, like 10 pies and stuff like that, I consider running 3 just to be sure. And even like if I go second and they draw me or shifter me, I would rather have this on the board just to be safe and chill. And basically this card won me the Kashtira matchup. Like I said, I won by 100 life points. We'll go over that later on. For the one-offs that I switch out, this is a card that I switch in after the side decking is done, because people might use Bestials to stop this. And I'm fine if they stop this early, because if I don't hand loop, it's fine. At least I want to be able to like swarm the board, because if you've seen my other Master Duel like content, on Master Duel there is no Sylva, so you don't hand loop. But what you can do with this deck is finish with a board of Palooza, Zombiestein, Dweller, IP Masquerina, Muckracker, and Zombiestein or Fusion monster, I don't remember. Basically a full board of monster negates that you can put up, so if they go into stop the Ceruli, it's 1 card out of their hand already, so it's fine. I can put a whole board of negates of like a Palooza. I can put the, like, not let them play at all, even if they, like, bestial the Ceruli. But if they bestial this, I cannot swarm, I cannot, like, start doing shenanigans with my rank 8 plays or link monsters through Graph and RB. So I put in a second one in case they, like, grow it or whatever, and it's searchable. So the RB, the Rain Bux, or how do you pronounce this? Rain Bux, Sovereign King of Darkworld, yeah, with that card. You can search it, so it's fine. I have a third Lava Golem for when I'm going second. Like I said, I want to be a 50-50 in regards of the dice roll, that's why I have 2 in the main deck. I used to have 3 in the main deck, but right now it's switched up. So I decided to put 1 of these into the side deck just to keep the consistency going first, and also being able to do stuff going second without the side deck by having 2 Lava Golems in the main deck. But this is just in case I want to go second. If I will go second, I will put this in almost all the time. Another going second card is Snatch Steel. It helped me a lot. It like did a lot of work throughout the whole tournament. So it's a very good card. It even helped me burn my opponent by getting back the same Lava Golem I gave them. I just took the Lava Golem back, did a Coach King, and went for the damage and won. Then we have 2 Cosmic Cyclones. It's a good card. Sometimes I even consider using it against Snake Eye. If you're going first, like you can banish their spell, like monsters that are in the spell trap zone. And like in case there's runics and stuff, it's just a very good card to have on the side. It banishes and you just forget about the problem. Also another card for spell trap decks is Harpy Feather Duster. It's one of those cards you can use going second to break the boards if you see your opponent likes to set cards and stuff, or have like cards that interrupt your board by having them on the field in the spell zone or the field zone. This is a card you can put in going second. This is a card I used to go into time because sometimes you have to go into time. I personally am able to do the hand loop like in 10 minutes, unless it's really hard, like you don't get all the combo pieces, then it might be 12 minutes. But I mean, your opponent can also stall and stuff like that, so you kind of have to have this just in case you go into time. The other 3 cards I have is 3 Nibiru, and the reason I ran this is if you've seen at my Nationals, Plant Link won, and this is a good card against Plant Links. I know that guy. I mean, like, we had a lot of people from abroad, like from UK, from Germany, from Latvia, and I just noticed that the top 3 people of them are from my locals, like me considered. And I just had a feeling that sooner or later I might face him, and for some reason I kind of had to play against him in the top 4. But for like content reasons, they wanted to film the Tenpai going against Plantlink, which in my opinion, like, what do you think? Like, Tenpai versus like Dark Worlds. Who wants to go first? Will Tenpai go first or second? What do you think? Like, what's the idea? What's their thought process? Because for them, it's like a lose-lose situation. I think that would be a lot more fun to watch. Anyways, yeah, so this card sometimes is really good depending on the matchup. So if you see that matchup that swarms a lot, does a lot, and they are afraid of Nibiru, you might consider this. But like, the best decks and players still can outplay this. So it's just a situational card that I can have. Same with this. These 2 are also situational, because I don't know, maybe I might face a deck like Runic Stun, I don't know, stuff can happen. Like, for that reason, if I see a slower deck that doesn't want to do a lot of stuff and kill me on the next turn, I might consider using this simply for me to be able to do a bit of control myself. So these are just optional. You can kind of switch these 5 out as much as you want. Like, for Change of Heart, you can put that in, and those are one of the options you can do. I was able to play through the Droll and win the first game. In the second game, he decided to go